Standards Board. This is our call to order here. Our first item here will be any public comment. I haven't seen a sign-up sheet or anybody here that looks unfamiliar to me, is not otherwise affiliated with the Metro government. All right, so seeing none, we'll close the comment period, and I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting.
So moved.
Have a first? Is there a second? Firsted and seconded. So the meeting minutes is distributed or approved. And we'll move right into here to the purchasing agent report. Dennis, if you want to get started with that.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So a little bit different format this time. I think last meeting that we had, no doubt my background coming in as purchasing agent was vastly different than being a 23-year Metro government employee as Michelle Lane was and the qualifications she had. And so what I would like to do is change it up a little bit and share with you basically where I've been from February 26th when I come on board to where we're at now. So in that, I basically created with the team an FY25 procurement strategy. So the strategic planning process that we went through, no doubt, me not having prior knowledge of Metro processes or the purchases that we made, numerous conversations within the purchasing team, along with the management team, finance leadership feedback from Michelle, Talia, and also with Kevin. Lots of conversation there. Some conversations with some of the Metro Council members as well, getting their feedback on what they see the procurement processes and some of the things they see from their seats. I had numerous voice of customer meetings with departments and basically going in, especially some of our larger departments, making sure the shortfalls that we had going into what we were going to do as far as producing a strategy. Also procurement talent analysis, making sure that we had the right people in the right seats, along with the talent that I basically bring to the position and how we can utilize that to Metro's greatest asset. Also, escalation investigations for me are important. So whenever someone calls where we've had miscommunications or maybe mistiming on projects, understanding how those escalations took place and then ultimately creating countermeasures on the correction. And then coming from a manufacturing environment, why analysis. So bringing in some Kaizen, Six Sigma type applications into the role and then discovering how we can be more efficient, particularly in meetings, process flows, and approval flows. Next slide. So we created what I'm calling 5 procurement strategy pillars. So my experience in creating objectives, especially strategic objectives, is you can get too many and then ultimately you won't accomplish anything. So what we wanted to do is pick what are the 5 main items that if we can absolutely put effective countermeasures in place for wins, what would those 5 items be? So in the numerous discussions that we had, these are the 5 that we created to work on for FY25. So the first one is improve total procurement cycle time. It's interesting to me coming into the role, procurement owns the entire procurement process. We only control a portion of it. There's a lot of other interactions that take place within departments and making sure we understand where the bottlenecks are, and making sure that a process flow doesn't become a process stop in some cases. The second one is improve communication and collaboration between procurement and the Metro departments. Communication and collaboration for me are a given. You'll see that majority of the misfires that we have within an organization are caused because of lack of effective communication. And so creating more open channels, I think with the departments are a very effective way to do that. We also did some realignment in the way that the buyers are actually handling their responsibilities that I'll share with you a little bit later. Improve procurement efficiency for greater job satisfaction and retention. Michelle, prior to becoming on board, had went through, I think, significant attrition. I think upwards of 70 to 80% from what I understand. And so in these positions, it usually takes somewhere between 6 to 9 months to train somebody up fully. So you can imagine if you were going through significant attrition, how that affects your organization efficiency. And so we want to make sure that the jobs are efficient and the job satisfaction for the people doing the job. They feel good about what they do at the end of the day. Number 4, optimize department budgets by reducing cost. For me, procurement needs to add value to the process, right? And so if we're not adding value, then to me, we're just processing paperwork. And so I want to truly negotiate cost. I want to negotiate scopes on behalf of the departments. And at the end of the day, we want to optimize how the budgets are spent and make sure that they get the most effective use for the Metro taxpayers. And then lastly, accelerate procurement training. As I mentioned, it usually takes us 6 to 9 months to get someone fully trained. We have to improve that, especially with some of the initiatives that we have coming forward, that, you know, Titan Stadium, East Bank, some of the big projects. And so we have to be able to go faster, and to do that, we need to be able to train quicker as well. Next slide. So to do this, we developed, and actually it's sort of become a joke. I have a slide with people rowing a boat, and the concept is one team, one boat, one direction, right? So we're all in the boat together, and we want to make sure at the end of the day we're all rowing it the same direction. So we've actually initiated several different activities that actually do that, and you'll get to see some of those as we go along. Develop departmental buyers support alignment. So when I came on board, basically the next person up would take the next project. And so ultimately what would happen, the departments would see numerous purchasing people supporting them. And so this sort of created, in my mind, issues with collaboration. And one of the department feedback items was that everyone they worked with operated differently. So it was almost like every project the department had, it would be sort of a new project based upon the purchasing person we're working with. So this actually creates continuity between the department and between procurement. We've also got some things we're initiating, Kaizen activities we're initiating to where the buyers will actually be doing more a standardized role, and to where each buyer role that you work with would be operating in the same manner. Structural support from management. So we did some organizational changes to improve the support that the purchasing procurement people were getting. I think these are very effective as well. Implement buyer standardization and cycle time improvement. We have 2 Kaizen activities that we initiated to basically support both of these items, and I'll cover separate slides there. Optimize team talent. You know, as I mentioned, me coming on board, I had a little bit different background than maybe Michelle Lane did in the position. And how can we optimize the talent I bring and the talent the other team members bring to get the most effective use for Metro? And then acceleration of purchasing agent training, a learning curve. I need to go faster to be able to support the team the way they need my support. I need to learn faster. So there were some things that we actually implemented to sort of force my learning curve a little bit quicker, and I'll share with you those as well. And then ultimately, voice of customer meetings to validate the direction we're going. I'm a firm believer that you need to talk to people, ask how your organization's supporting their organization, and then taking that feedback and making sure that you're doing the right countermeasures for that. Next slide. So these are some of the action items, the procurement action statuses that we have. So we already have a cycle time improvement Kaizen in place. We've developed the department alignment. We've developed the buyer standardization Kaizen and adjusted management structure. Positive budget impact through cost reduction activities. We just created a formal Metro cost savings methodology. So if you think about all the different projects that we have in Metro, we have revenue producing projects. We have some where we're wanting to provide pass-through services, and there's value in all these, and then able to capture that from a dollar perspective. Communication, weekly one-on-ones with buyers to monitor job performance. That's actually in process, and then ultimately creating targets and metrics that can be measured. So in the future, hopefully by next board, you will see a buyer dashboard, that just a one-pager that will simply show exactly where we're at to this. So we're going to try to simplify that as well. Next slide. This for me is probably more important than the actual work that we're doing. This is procurement being a good citizen. And so I call these social impact goals. So these are the things that we want to do as a department that will actually help society as citizens of the state and the city doing the right thing. And so part of that is the first one's DEI training curriculum. We're taking some intensive DEI training. We actually had the DEI team present to our team this morning in the same building. And in my mind, procurement is the face of Metro regarding DEI, and so we need to make sure that we're walking the talk related to that. Adjusted impacted individual benchmarking with the support of Larry Turnley after the meeting, last meeting we had, Mr. Turnley, we got a chance to have a couple of meetings with him related to adjusted impacted individuals, and so we've got some things that we're looking at related to that to support that initiative. I'm a strong believer in it, and I appreciate the fact that Mr. Turnley brought that to our attention. Continue professional certification momentum. Michelle Lane actually did an incredible job getting our team up to, I think we're upwards of 85% in certifications. It's amazing. We're being recognized, I think, nationally for this work, and I want to continue the great job that Michelle had done related to that. Team building, very, very important. We actually had a luncheon in this room just a few minutes before this took place. We've got great team motivation and making sure, even though we're working in a hybrid schedule, making sure that we're collaborating together as a group, and that's very, very important to our organization. And then for me, probably the most important is quality of life and work-life balance, is making sure that when you come into work, you feel good about what you're doing, you feel safe. I know in a lot of cases we've gotten moved from building to building, and so right now we're actually just removed back into the Lindsley building about a month or so ago. A lot of improvements to our environment just for the simple fact that we now have a space for procurement. But at the end of the day, empowering our team to where they feel good about what they're doing. Next slide. I won't go through each one of these, but just as an example, we had each one of our functional groups basically create what their strategy is. So this is the one for the procurement resource group. Next slide. This is for innovation and strategy. So again, you're seeing the important things that each one of these departments within procurement are wanting to accomplish for this year. Next slide. BAO strategies, very, very important to us as well in creating metrics going forward. And then business development and outreach engagement strategies as well, and making sure that we're getting out and meeting the public and doing the right thing related to making sure that we're capturing the most SBE and MBE that we can possibly get as Metro. Next slide. So real quick, I actually included this because next slide please, there was some meeting minutes related to procurement cycle time that I read from previous board meetings. And so no doubt in coming into Metro, this was a big issue, is we wanted to go faster. And so my background in manufacturing, a lot of like Six Sigma type experience. And so we created one of our Kaizens is actually a cycle time Kaizen. So basically what we're doing is taking the entire procurement process and stripping it back to the individual steps, and then ultimately seeing where all the bottlenecks are at and seeing where we can improve. Next slide. So team members, I'm actually leading this team. Very interactive team, good, really strong participation. If you see, these are, the yellow where we have total procurement cycle. So these are the number of days it currently takes us to do each 4 of those procurement processes. So it seems very long. A lot of people tells us every day that it's too long. We're not disagreeing or agreeing, but our goal is to try to figure out ways to reduce this with the collaborations with the departments. The team goal going into the end of this year is to reduce it by 5%. And then within the team, I have a Dennis Rowland stretch target of 10% that I would like to hit. Just because the world I came from, you always had stretch targets. Next slide, please. So if you look at this, I wanted to use this as like an educational slide because a lot of people that will say procurement's slow don't understand the interaction that we have with the various departments. And so this actually is the way we are currently measuring the different cycles, the different steps. And so I wanted to create a very simple slide that said action being measured. So the first one, for example, is average requisition received to requisition assigned. So this is a rec coming into purchasing, and now how long does it sit there before it's assigned? And so and then who is in the process? So this is interaction with the departments. They're the ones that actually send that. So we are measuring this per step. So right now for the Kaizen, we've completed step 1 and step 2, basically average of rec assigned to completed solicitation docs received. So once we go through all of this, we've already got, out of those first 2 steps, I'm thinking 10 to 15 process improvements out of 2 steps. So it's been a very slow process, but at the end of the day, this is going to streamline Metro's, I think, efficiency in much greater than 10%, but it's just going to take some time. And then the last slide that I'll go over, we mentioned optimizing talent. One of the things, I've got 30 plus years of procurement experience in a lot of different areas, that actually Metro utilizes a lot. And so had a lot of discussions with Michelle debating how to align the team. Originally, prior to coming on board, Michelle had a portion of the team, and then the assistant PA actually had a portion. I made the decision to align the team directly under me just from a pure, I need to learn the processes quicker. And so this is when I mentioned the purchasing agent learning curve acceleration. This is what this is about. Actually, I think the interaction with the buyers is also, with my experience, is beneficial for them, or at least that's the feedback they give me. And so this is a major change that we had going forward. I'm enjoying actually this process just for the simple fact that coming from the world I came from, it's actually fun to get in get into the work with the buyers themselves and have the fun. So that's all I've got related to the FY25 strategy. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask related to this? I know it went really fast, so.
I have a question.
I think.
So I don't have a question. I arrived a little bit late, but I will say I appreciate all of the work that went into that. I mean, I could tell that was a lot, so I appreciate that. And I also appreciate your enthusiasm about tackling that.
So for me, team effort all the way around. I mean, I came on board and basically facilitate. I'm a facilitator, right? And so I'm very proud of the team. We had numerous conversations from the management team and the procurement team in developing all of it. And the fun part, the meeting we had prior to coming here, we had a full team collaboration. So we went through all of our wins. And like I said, there's probably 15 to 20 wins total on both teams. And I think one thing that we're seeing is it's very motivating because they feel empowered to make change, which is really satisfying for me as well. So thank you for the kind words.
I do actually have a question, and you might have answered it. You said something when you first began that I wanted to make sure I fully understood. You said that you referred to having conversations with the larger departments. I think that's what you said. Mm-hmm. And so who do you define as larger departments?
So we basically have 4 departments that have, I'm thinking, like 85% of our total spend. So that would be water, general services, parks, and NDOT.
Okay. And then have you gotten feedback from any of the other departments? And if not,
I've actually had opportunities. So what will happen, I will share the strategy as the opportunity. I would love to get around to everyone, but with the amount of departments that we have, I've met with library. There's been a few others that I've met with. Off the top of my head, I don't know what those are.
Okay, so as not a larger department, one of the things that strikes me about this and that we've kind of dealt with previously when it comes to just looking at purchasing overall is that while the larger departments have a larger amount of spend, we understand that. I would encourage you to prioritize getting around to the other departments as well, because sometimes the decisions that are made regarding the larger departments don't necessarily translate well to the rest of us. So this was great. It was great to see you do this. So that's one thing that was a question, I guess, and a statement. And then the second one, I felt like I saw a little bit of it in your presentation, but would appreciate making sure that the departments are included in the feedback loop early, so that as you're doing things and feeling very good about how things are moving with your team, that there's a clear understanding of what the immediate impact is on the departments. Those were just the 2 things that I would request.
Okay. One comment on that. It's interesting as we interact with departments, there's some departments that have had attrition for the key people that we work with. So we have some struggles related to creating solicitations and things. One thing that we've adopted that I don't have in this deck recently, we're calling it precision procurement training. Mm-hmm. So if a department has a particular need, and we've had a couple of these that we're piloting, we are going in to do very specific training with that department. So I think there's going to be some improvements. And unfortunately, being able to get out to all the departments has been difficult. But as we interact with the departments and we come up with these, then that's when we will actually initiate some of the improvements, and I get the opportunity to actually interact with them related to the strategy. So, but I appreciate your comments very much.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so that being said, in your packets, you have the procurement data. One of the things in Michelle's coaching with me related to this, this is your meeting. And so as we sort of evolve through with the new purchasing agent, if there's different data that you would like to see, I'd be more than happy we can actually maneuver through this. I think that sharing the strategy was part of that. But if there's any questions related to any of the data that you have in your packet, we have the right people in the room that can answer any questions you have related to that.
Do we have any questions about the data or the reports? I get to see those regularly, so my questions get answered probably more often than most. So I think as we wrap up this portion of the agenda, I just want to commend you, Dennis. I know it's been just about 6 months or so since you've come on board with us, and this is a mountain of work to have taken on, and I see a lot of your team here, and I want to commend them as well. Having come and gone now from the Metro government for the second time, to go to the outside world and come back is quite an eye-opener. And one of the things that I've really noticed the second time is that we're up now to almost 80 boards and commissions, dozens of departments, like Dr. Kroom is mentioning. And, going after the big percentage of our spend certainly feels really good from a financial standpoint. And I think you've done a great job with that. is we look at what is procurement and a fair number of our other processes, recognizing that our city is growing quickly and outgrowing a lot of our government functions, then within it, they tend to outgrow us quickly and us trying to catch up to that. So I think it's just very commendable, all the work that you've done, that the team's doing really to try and catch up to it. And I think every time we see a headline and the city grows again, we can expect there's probably a little bit of growing pain that comes along with it. So thank you for doing that. I know as we do grow into that, our next agenda item becomes important, as will, I'm sure, some others through time. So, Dennis, I'm going to give the baton back to you to talk about this procurement regulations modification we'd like to get a vote on today.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. So what we're looking to do is make an adjustment to regulation 4.12.060, sole source procurement. One of the problems that we have on sole source procurements, first of all, we lose our leverage, right? So this is basically an approval of getting approval for a department to basically go to a particular, just a particular vendor that has something we need. And so ultimately doing that, you lose all chances to negotiate, right? I'm a competitive bid person. I love the competitive bidding process. I prefer if we could do that 100% of the time. And so what this language, it basically does two things. The request that we're making for the change basically does two things. We're clarifying that before a sole source is granted, the supplier has to agree to our standard terms and conditions. So in other words, they can't go back and try to negotiate terms and conditions with us. And then if they don't agree to that prior to this approval, then we will go out for bid. So in other words, the sole source will be denied. This is necessary because what we found, you would think that sole sources would be simpler because you don't really have to do a competitive bidding process, but in reality, it becomes a longer process due to the negotiations become very, very long, and it's timely, it's time consuming. So that's the first part of the change. And then the second part is basically clarifying that if departments need things like electricity from example, NES or any other service that you can't get that from, in other words, there's no other option than to get electricity from NES, that they don't have to go through the sole source process. So there's some very logical items related to that we have going into this. And then at the very end, what you'll see in a lot of these rules is over a period of time, items that need to be eliminated because technology changes. And so you'll see some of the blue strike throughs at the bottom where we changed some of the items, eliminated some of the items that are no longer needed based upon the way that society changes. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the background on that. So one of the nice things about a smaller commission, smaller meeting room is some informal discussion. I really appreciate both of your reports here. For this part, though, if we're going to take a vote on this, I need to move a little bit more formally. So can I get a motion to approve this so we can get it here for discussion?
So moved.
I have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Great. So I'll open the floor to discussion from the board.
So I do have a few questions because, of course, this sole source, when it comes to our curriculum and things like that, we obviously use, that's the process that's used. What does this do for things that are federally mandated? So, for example, if I have a software system I have to use, I'm responsible for it. How does this speak to things like that? Is that still encompassed within this as it has been previous to now? That would be helpful.
So based upon my experience, I'd like to have Zach answer that for me.
Yes, ma'am. It wouldn't change anything. That would be covered under compatibility as a condition of your grant, and so there wouldn't be anything different about that under these changes.
And so then I was looking for where the curriculum pieces was housed under this. I think it was previously looked at under, was it under subscription to academic or literary databases and services? Is that where the curriculum was? Because I didn't see, when I looked through the things that you were a part of the strike through, I didn't see it there, but I know that we were using a sole source process when we have to purchase curriculum. Where is that covered under here?
That's covered under compatibility. We've never had curriculum set out as
Correct.
a specific approved category, but I know for your items, which I reviewed, those are usually considered under compatibility because you have both existing systems and a federal mandate.
Okay.
And that would be the same under these changes.
Okay, that was it. I just wanted to make sure as we were making adjustments. Again, I'm going to go back to my being petty about being a smaller department, but we do have some very specific requirements because we're very heavily grant funded. And I know that you all have worked with our agency, and I'm sure not just ours, when it comes to things like the curriculum and some of the things that we're required to have because we are grant funded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are great questions. Any other questions from the board? Great. All right. Is there a motion to approve as written? First, and is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Unanimously approved. Nice job, everybody. Great. So that concludes our agenda here, except for some closing remarks. And I would like to make one of those and just recognize that one of our board members here, Dr. Kroom, is going to be retiring after what I understand to be 24 years of service to the Metro government.
That's right, and over 20 on this board.
Wow.
That happened.
So I just want to say for myself, when I arrived at the Metro government the first time, I had met with my own team, and there were about a dozen of them reporting at the time. And I asked them quite simply as we ran around the table to talk a little bit about each division, if they'd tell me how many years they'd been with the Metro government. So as that went around, I mentally added up how many years that was, and it was hundreds of years by the time we got back around the circle. And I thanked them for that because it was very comforting, because at that moment I was still measuring my time at the Metro government in hours. And so when I come to a meeting like this and hear the great questions, the comments you have, that's just institutional knowledge that we're going to miss very much. And I haven't had the pleasure of working with you all of those years, but somebody here among us who has worked with you a lot more of those years is Michelle Lane. I think would like to say a few words about her experiences with you before we go.
It's going to be really, really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Embrace myself.
Thank you, Chair, for deferring some time to me. Yeah, absolutely correct. I really appreciate Dr. Kroom for her participation on this board, for, so much of my time in government, and certainly while I served the city as its purchasing agent. You've been what I can only define really as a very steadfast contributor to this board, always providing really thoughtful insight, asking those hard questions, making sure that you always represent not just your smaller department, as you call it, but also the vantage point of many other smaller departments within Metro. And you have developed expertise and have always had the commitment that has made you a really invaluable member of this board. And it's helped us to really shape and guide our procurement processes so that we can be more effective and more inclusive, which I think is really important. So you've left really just a lasting impact on this board. And I know that, the mayor will appoint another department head who is going to come in and be just as qualified, but we are absolutely going to miss you. And I congratulate you, just having known you before I ever came to Metro, which you may not know that, when I worked for the state of Tennessee and served the citizens of the state then. I knew Dr. Kroom then and had the opportunity to really understand her commitment to the work. And so I really just want to wish you all the best as you enter retirement. Hopefully we'll get to spend a lot more time with the grand. Is it just one grand or just one who you just adore? I can tell your face lights up every time you talk about him. But, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for us and what you've meant for this board and to the work of procurement and Metro government.
Thank you for your service.
If it's okay, I'd like to say two things. One, I need that written so I can give it to my husband. I want him to read that. And then secondly, thank you. It's been my honor to serve with you all and for you all to patiently deal with the questions. So thank you. I wish you all the best, and thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.